Selamat malam Bapak Ibu semuanya. Pak Justinus ini.
Selamat malam, Prof.
Mana kabar?
Baik, Prof. Terima kasih. Gimana kabarnya, Prof. Jarot?
Alhamdulillah, pokoknya sehat.
Senang sekali saya bisa mengikuti acara-acara seperti ini. Tapi kadang-kadang tuh waktunya itu terlambat gitu, Prof. Pas di perjalanan gitu. Jadi, tapi kalau pas gini ya, insya Allah bisa mengikuti.
Iya, kalau ini malam karena memang beda 11 jam dengan Kanada sih.
Oh iya, Prof. Ya.
Jadi memang ada permintaan yang sukanya sore, ada yang suka malam juga.
Iya, iya.
Gimana, sudah milih masuk di mana?
Pemilihan sudah dijalankan, tetapi nggak tahu nih penempatan lalu bagaimana gitu. Kita masih menunggu dalam beberapa minggu atau beberapa bulan, tidak tahu gitu, Prof.
Ya kita tunggu aja.
Iya. Prajurit kan siap sedia
Di mana
bertempur
saja.
di mana gitu, Prof.
Ini kita pernah mencoba pagi hari ketika Pak Archandra, juga banyak juga. Ada tipe yang suka sore, ada yang suka pagi, ada yang suka malam.
Nggak apa-apa ya, memang kalau saya kan menyesuaikan aja gitu, Prof. Kadang sore pun juga kadang bisa gitu. Jadi ya pokoknya selagi memungkinkan pasti mengusahakan untuk bisa ikut bersama-sama gitu, Prof.
Iya. Dan ini kan berbagi ilmu ini.
Iya, dan sangat bermanfaat sekali. Makanya saya juga dapat sertifikat dari Himni ini setumpuk gitu kali, Prof.
paling tidak untuk ini ya, apa itu, untuk pelatihan 20 jam udah tercapai kali ya.
Saya sudah lebih dari 20 jam. 50 jam juga lebih, Prof.
Sebagai ASN sudah tercapai itu.
Iya, iya.
Gimana Pak Irawan, kabar?
Alhamdulillah, Prof.
Minggu depan masalah pertanian?
Yap.
Saya ingin mengadakan, tapi tergantung narasumbernya, sebagai mungkin banyak peserta webinar ini ingin tahu terkait apa sih Outstanding Achievement Award artinya gitu. Mungkin ada yang ingin tahu kan? Tapi saya mungkin nanti terus sekalian membahas masalah yang disampaikan oleh Pak Irawan itu.
Baik, Pak. Baik, Pak.
Ya.
Silakan, Pak.
Ya. Siapa yang mau diundang kira-kira?
Sebetulnya banyak juga, Pak. Jadi mungkin dari BAPC, kemudian dari komunitas muda nuklir juga ingin ada yang aktif juga.
Oh iya. Siapa BAPC sekarang yang suka aktif? Pak Abu Andali ya?
Pak Abu Andali, betul. Kemudian juga memang kemarin permasalahan juga memang kan dari beliau tuh ada sedikit.
Iya.
Itu dari Pak Abu, mungkin masukan lah gitu, Prof.
Ya.
Pak Ilham juga yang grup benihnya, Pak. Masih itu.
Oh, Pak Ilham ya.
Ya. Udah lama kita juga nggak silaturahim dengan Presiden BAPC-nya nih, Pak.
Presiden seumur hidup kan.
Ya, supaya ini aja, Prof. Mitra-mitra kita tuh mungkin nanti setelah kita jadi BRIN ini kan mungkin ada untuk alur benih kita mungkin lebih
Ya.
kan ada gonjangan mungkin penggabungan bidang pertanian ini menjadi apa di Cibinong atau apa, nah gitu.
Gonjang anjing apa bukan gonjang anjing nah?
Apa betul gitu ya? Di sana.
Ini Pak Umar sudah hadir ini, yang punya reaktor Bandung, Jogja.
Ya.
Iya Pak, Assalamualaikum. Selamat malam.
Selamat malam ini. Saya menunggu ini yang mantan direktur yang reaktor Bandung yang konon mau di decommissioning itu. Reaktor McMaster ini usianya lebih lama daripada reaktor Bandung. Mulai komersial pertama kali tahun 1959. Hebat itu. Jadi kalau dibilang tua sekali, tapi ya optimal sekali.
Itu pernah ganti tangki atau ganti teras itu belum nggih Pak Prof Jarot?
Nanti aja. Tapi memang di dalam tulisannya ada pernah beberapa kali upgrade, tapi upgrade-nya seperti apa saya tidak tahu.
Iya, saya cari di webnya itu di Kanada itu nggak disebut di situ. Penuaannya nggak disebut, hanya utilisasinya sih.
Ya.
Berbasis Jawa. Berbasis Jawa.
Halo, Prof.
Pak Irawan ikut kemana pusatnya?
Saya ikut PTN Air, Prof.
Oh, ikut ke Pak. Terus teman-teman yang lain kemana?
Ada juga yang ke Tamrin dan Serpong 4 yang PRTN kita Pak. Yang apa? Humasnya. Memang di Pasar Jumat tidak di apa namanya? Humas tidak ada di sana, Prof.
Oke. Ya.
Waktu itu
Ya, pokoknya dinikmati aja di mana.
Ya, Pak.
Halo Chris. Ini speakernya sudah hadir sih. Good morning, Chris. Udah ada Pak Susilo.
Sorry about that. Good morning.
Good morning. How are you? Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
Okay.
Thanks so much for the invitation.
Well,
really
no,
appreciate it.
thank you for your kindness to have a time to give us so many experience of you have that we can learn about the McMaster reactors.
Well, I must say that I've always wanted to visit your country, so maybe this will be the start of an invitation, and I can come and meet everyone in person. And,
okay, we will invite you. Okay, yeah.
Well, that's my hope, anyways.
Yeah, I visited your reactors, I think 5 years ago, 2016.
Okay,
Yeah.
We must have met, I think.
Oh, really? Yeah. At that time, a person, young guy, guide us, explain everything about your reactors. I don't know. I don't remember his name.
So you're saying I'm not a young guy?
Yeah, sorry.
I'm just joking. Well, I hope you enjoyed the tour.
Thank you. Yeah, we enjoyed the tour. At that time, we visited Professor Nagasaki's laboratory also.
Okay, good. Yeah.
And I think several Indonesian delegations visited your reactors. Well, I saw the pictures of the embassy people visited your reactors.
That may have been the visit I was thinking about.
Okay.
I do remember a delegation, maybe within the last 5 years anyways.
Okay. Well, actually, I'm the former chairman of National Nuclear Energy Agency, but right now, as a senior researcher, our agency is merged into new agency. It is called National Research and Innovation Agency. So the chairman of the agency always said we have to decommission our oldest reactors. So before that, I asked you to explain everything about your experience, the success story of McMaster.
Yeah, and I hope I strike the right chord here today. I know, speaking to a technical group, it's a little bit easier on some level, but a little bit more difficult on another level. Just to make sure I'm hitting the right balance. But
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to telling you my story and or our story, and I hope we can. I hope you can take something away from it.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. So at the moment, there are more than 100 participants, usually more than 200 or maybe sometime in 300 participants in this weekly webinar every Thursday.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's great. That's amazing. Yeah.
So we promote nuclear technology at every aspect. Sometimes we ask the speakers from the politicians, ministers, or well, that can explain many things about the nuclear technology. Yeah, I would like to introduce you the former former director of Bandung Research Reactor, Dr. Jupiter Pane.
It's nice to meet you, Jupiter.
Mr. Chris. What should I call you, Chris or Hazel?
Chris is my first name.
Chris, okay, good. Thank you. Yeah, nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you. Maybe we'll meet in person someday if I can get over to your beautiful area of the world.
So.
Yeah, I'm previously working on the Bandung's reactor with trigger type of reactor. Yeah.
Okay, because the time is 7:30 p.m., we will start the meeting. I will talk first using Indonesian language. After that, we will use the English. Selamat malam Bapak Ibu semuanya. Malam ini kita mengadakan webinar ke-43 tahun 2021 atau ke-75 total selama pandemi ini. Kita akan mendengarkan kisah cerita suksesnya McMaster dalam mengelola reaktor risetnya. Jadi ini pelajaran penting bagi kita yang mempunyai 3 reaktor riset juga, bagaimana mengelola baik sebagai reaktor untuk riset maupun reaktor untuk komersial. Saya akan menggunakan bahasa Inggris sebagai pengantar. Jadi, tetapi pertanyaan silahkan menggunakan chat pakai bahasa Indonesia juga nggak apa-apa. Jadi, kita bisa berinteraksi, bisa belajar dari apa yang disampaikan oleh Mr. Chris Hazel. Oke, saya akan menggunakan bahasa Inggris. Good morning, Chris. Good morning, everyone in Canada, because we have a time difference about 11 hours. Good evening, everyone in Indonesia. Good days. This evening, we have a special guest from Canada, from far away from Indonesia, Mr. Chris Hazel. He is the director of nuclear facility in McMaster University, Canada. He will speak about the success story. I think this is the success story. When I visited the reactors 5 years ago, it was very impressed one that they have successfully operate the reactor for research and also for commercial use. We can learn from the experience of the reactors for our 3 research reactors. For Bandung research reactors, our oldest one, but McMaster reactors older than Bandung reactor. And then for the Yogyakarta research reactor, and of course the biggest one for the Serpong research reactors. So we can learn about his experience as a director, and maybe he explained about the upgrading of the research reactors. But before that, as usual, I would like to ask Dr. Susilo Widodo to give his opening speech. Please, Pak Susilo.
Yes. Yes. Okay. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam.
Selamat malam, salam sehat dari Yogyakarta. Shall I speak in English, Pak Jarod?
Well, if you
to Mr. Chris Hazel, please accept my greeting from Yogyakarta, Central Java. Actually, my position is about 400 kilometers apart from Mr. Jarod. So, but this time is, I think, is very good opportunity for us, for our audience, that you are, Mr. Chris, available for us this morning for you and this evening for us. And well, it will be interesting because I just a little bit browsing in the internet about the McMaster nuclear reactor, and congratulations that you just got the presidential award for outstanding services for the medical isotope supply chain team during, I think, during the pandemic, COVID pandemic, I think. And this will be interesting because you can maintain your production and supply to all over the world for the isotope of iodine 125. I know that this isotope was usually used for cancer therapy with the brachytherapy method, and well, maybe also we import from you. Besides that, we try also in Indonesia to produce ourselves the isotope. And I forgot to introduce to you that my name is Susilo Widodo. Sorry, and I am the chairman or president of the Indonesian Nuclear Society. Well, if we compare our achievement and your achievement, quite different. Our best achievement is to have a 25th webinar for during pandemic, and your achievement is to maintain your production of isotope. It's quite different, but that's why we would like to share each other about yes, your experience on this, and I think this will be interesting for our audience in Indonesia, especially some member of Indonesian Nuclear Society. Sorry, my English is is not good because if you hear that in Southeast Asia there are many type of English. There is Singlish, Singaporean English, Tanglish, Tagalog English, and my English is Janglish, Javanese English. Yeah, please talk to us with slowly, please. So we would better understand what you will speak to us. Thank you very much. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Thank
Terima
you,
kasih,
Pak.
Pak Jarod.
Ya, terima kasih Pak Susilo. Thank you very much.
Thanks again for everybody for
Okay, I think we will move to the main event of these webinars to hear the explanation, the presentation of Mr. Chris Hazel. But before that, let me give you the background of our research reactors owned by the government, by Indonesian government. So we cannot doing business commercially. That's why we sometimes, or not we sometimes, we have to have a cooperation with the state-owned company, with the private sectors, that they can sell it. For example, the radioisotope to outside to the market. That's why maybe it is different with McMaster research reactors, but I think we have to learn from them about their operation, their management. Before Chris Hazel talk about the experience of McMaster nuclear research reactor, I would like to give you the civil or short bio of Chris Hazel. He's the Director of Nuclear Operation and Facilities, McMaster University. Chris attended Queen's University and graduated with an honor degree in chemical engineering in 1986. Chris joined McMaster University as the Director of Nuclear Operation and Facilities in June 2001. As the Director of Nuclear Operation, Chris is responsible for the safe and effective operation of university-operated nuclear facilities, not only the research reactor with a power of 5 MW, but also 3 particle accelerators, a cyclotron production and research facility, and also a large post-irradiation examination hot cell facility and 2 intense irradiation facilities. Prior to coming to the University of the Universities, he spent 14 years at ACL's Chalk River National Laboratory, working at the 135 MW National Research Universal or NRU research reactor. So I think his CV is very long, so I have to stop here. It is time for us to hear the presentation of Chris Hazel. Please, Chris.
So I'm not sure if you can see my presentation.
Yes, we can see it. Yes, it's okay.
Great. Well, thank you very much for today's opportunity. I always like talking about the the facilities here at McMaster. And so today's a great honor to be able to speak to your technical society. I like talking about facilities, and I like touring people, especially students. We tour a lot of students through, and I really find the personal engagement one of the most gratifying parts of my job. So today's talk is really about the McMaster nuclear reactor, but I'll go over some aspects of the other facilities here, just to show you that the reactor by itself is very important, but the supporting facilities actually bring a lot to the value at the university. So to begin with, just to let everyone know where we are, this is the map of kind of North America, with Canada in the north and the US below us. We're located in a small town by Indonesian standards of about 500,000 people, right at the tip of Lake Ontario. So these are the Great Lakes, and this is Hamilton, Ontario. The university is a very nice setting, and the nuclear research reactor is in the heart of the main campus. So it's in this area of the campus where we do all of our nuclear activities, with the reactor in the center. McMaster itself has a pretty distinguished reputation. In Canada, we're the first in research intensity. So for the amount of research money we generate versus the number of professors, we're ranked #1 in Canada. There's lots of other statistics around the world. We rank 17th for impact. We have a pretty decent research income of about 375 million Canadian. Lots of different impact centers. We are the first #1 in corporate research in Canada. We're amongst the top 70 universities in the world, which is, you know, for a small Canadian university, that's a pretty big deal for us. There's about 33,000 full-time students and about 1,000 faculty members. I should start by saying that I'm an operations person. I'm not a faculty member. So being a reactor operations engineer, it's kind of like a general practitioner doctor. I know a little about a lot of things, but I don't know a lot about any specific thing. So I'll talk to you from my perspective of an operations engineer working in a university setting, which is a little bit different than from a national lab. I worked at a national lab prior to this, but the politics and the administration is different on a university campus. So our group at Nuclear Operations, we do a number of things. We do all the things that faculty members really don't want to do. You know, they don't want to license facilities. They don't want to operate them. They don't want to do the maintenance. They don't want to design. They don't want to train staff. They don't want to be in charge of nuclear security. We do a lot of facilitating with students and faculty and companies to make things happen. And we commercialize. And commercialization at a university campus is important, or for us, we like to say that by undertaking commercial activities, it really enables research and helps researchers. So I just throw this up. This is our organization. So it may be different than a lot of your organizations, but you can see my position as Director of Nuclear Operations. I report to the Vice President of Research at the university. And the president of the university actually is the holder of our nuclear license. I've got a really strong team with diverse lines of business, and an important facet of nuclear organizations are, you can see that the Director of Operations and the Director of Radiation Safety are jointly appointing to the Vice President of Research. And that makes sure that I can't influence safety, you know, so there's always an independent body looking at oversight for me, which is good. You know, and internally, we have two committees. We have a Nuclear Facilities Control Committee, which looks at mostly regulatory compliance, and we have a Health Physics Advisory Committee, which looks at radiation safety. So these two groups provide oversight to me and keep me in line with all the rules, but they also are a wealth of knowledge and help, and they're a great sounding board when we want to take on a new project. These are experts that can help give us advice to make it successful. So just a typical year, we like to say we're Canada's nuclear university. We have 9 nuclear facilities on campus. We have 174 approved projects. So those would be projects that have been given grant funding from a state or a federal government to take on nuclear or radiation science related research. This is implemented through a number of radioisotope permits. So these are the sort of the mini licenses that allow people to handle radioactivity on campus. And we have about 1,200 nuclear energy workers. So what I mean by nuclear energy workers are the people that are wearing a dosimetry or issued a dosimeter. They're trained in radiation science or radiation safety, and they get ongoing training. So this would be comparable to what you'd see at a nuclear power plant, these numbers. Now, a majority of these nuclear energy workers are students that are maybe undergraduate or graduate working in a lab handling very, very small amounts of activity, but we do monitor them all and we train them all. So we take the radiation safety very seriously here at the university. And for our regulators, 0 dose is a good number. So we don't mind collecting a bunch of zeros time in and time over again. In a typical year within nuclear operations, we would perform or support about 7,000 hours of research. We supply medical isotopes to treat about 80,000 patients every year. We support a number of universities here in Canada and around the world. Of course, we do lots and lots of safety checks. This is typical for any nuclear facility. We qualify 100,000 turbine blades for aircraft engines every year. So if you've flown in an aircraft that was made in North America, the turbine blades have been to our facility to get qualified for operation. We're very immersed in medical isotope technology, so we're always looking to support researchers here on campus and across Canada and sometimes internationally on helping them develop their ideas into something that could be commercialized. Our open pool design is really a great design to tour people through. So every year, pre-pandemic, we would tour about 2,500 students, mostly high school and university students, through, and they can stand on a bridge and look down at the operating reactor, and it's fairly simple, as a lot of you would know. It's just a simple machine with one moving part really, and just about 30 meters of water gives us absolute protection from the harmful radiation that's found at the core. So it really helps demystify the technology. And this is important in Canada because in my province, we rely on 60% of our energy from nuclear power. And so, a lot of the public think of nuclear power, they think of chain link fences and security guards. So this helps demystify the technology and help people really identify with the technology and understand that it's not this terrible secret that we have to keep locked up. It's very interesting technology. And of course, Canada is rich in mining our minerals. So we with our nuclear neutron activation analysis group, we do a lot of mining assay samples to support that industry. So these are the 5 facilities I talk about, and I'll start with the high-level lab facility. So on campus, we have a unique lab facility. It includes over 24,000 square feet of CNSC is our federal regulator, our federal nuclear regulator, the Canadian Nuclear Safety Commission. And it's licensed to give us the ability to handle just about anything and in any quantity. So there's rules that we have to get follow to get permission to use different forms and different amounts of activity, but it's a really, really broad license, and it really helps us further research in a lot of different areas. In the facility is 35 different laboratories. We have access control for both security and radiological protection. We have 5 radiopharmaceutical hot cells. So these are the hot cells that are used to produce doses for clinical trials. And again, we can handle small amounts to large amounts of activity here. It's an important facility because we can make all the isotopes, research isotopes we want in either the reactor or the cyclotron, but unless we have an area to do the development work and the research, it's all for naught. So it really helps us to bring different disciplines together to work on what is a complicated path from a raw isotope to something that you can actually administer to a human. And we have a group of radiochemists and radiobiologists who work their magic in these labs. So these are the really smart, young, postdocs and faculty members that are really enthusiastic about moving this technology ahead. Second facility I'll talk about is our accelerator laboratory. The accelerator laboratory has 4 particle accelerators. We put our post-examination facility in there. Got a number of X-ray machines, large radiation sources, a number of different sub-nuclear facilities, but they're doing a lot of interesting research in these facilities. And the building itself hosts the cyclotron facility and the post-irradiation examination facility. And it's been on campus since 1971. Next, I'll talk about our cyclotron facility. And we received a grant from the government to purchase the cyclotron facility. And it works in symbiotic relationship with the reactor. So cyclotron will produce neutron deficient isotopes. And these types of isotopes are used normally to diagnose disease. So PET imaging agents, so those agents that we administer to patients, these agents will seek out disease and doctors will be able to tell where a disease is and it really looks at function, not structure. So a lot of times people will make a radioactive sugar with these machines. They'll inject that radioactive sugar into the patient, and the sugar will concentrate in areas where there's lots of cell production, i.e. in tumors. So a patient could go and get a CT scan, and it would show the doctor areas where there may be structures that aren't normal for a healthy human. But then they can get a PET scan done, and it'll tell the doctor if these abnormalities are actually growing. So are they benign or are they active? If they're active, then they can go ahead and treat them. It's a standard GE cyclotron. We use fluorine for the radioactive sugar. We can make I-124. We've done work on technetium-99. And for a while, it was operated as probably the most intense radiopharmaceutical in North America, producing about 18 curies of F-18 every run. And also important to the facilities, not just the cyclotron, but the hot cells where we can receive the isotopes and process them into drugs for use here in Canada and in the U.S. So FDA is the Federal Drug Administration in the U.S. So it's also been qualified to produce drugs for the U.S., which is, for Canada, a very large market. The next facility I'm going to talk about is the CANS facility, the Center for Advanced Nuclear Systems. This is a fairly new facility, but it's an important facility. It's really unique to a university. It's a complex of 5 interconnected hot cells. There's a receiving cell, a machining cell, sample prep, material testing, and optical microscopy. At the far end of the cell is a SEMBIB setup, and that allows us to do really very fine, very detailed analysis of material changes. Like I said, Canada has about, we're about 15% of our power is generated by nuclear energy, and about 60% in the state I'm in. So it's a very important source of energy. This facility is really important at looking at material coming from operating nuclear power plants, and it really helps support the safety of our existing fleets, but also looks at advancing next generation technologies. So if you could imagine doing an irradiation on material in our reactor and bringing it to a facility like this, we can look at new materials that will support next generation technologies like SMRs or like Gen 3 and Gen 4 nuclear power designs. This is just another picture of the facility. And this is the SEMFIB equipment I was telling you about. So this equipment is used for radioactive material. So there's similar equipment on campus that's used for non-active material. So this is an advantage so that we can look at the structure and properties of materials that have been irradiated in a nuclear power plant mostly. We do a lot of work with this. A lot of students use it for active and non-active work, and there's a ton of projects. It's a very powerful tool for material scientists here on campus, and a lot of graduate and undergraduate students. So that brings us to the McMaster nuclear reactor, and this is where I'll focus most of my discussion, but it is important to understand that all 5 of these facilities work together and are stronger because of the other facilities here on campus. So it's the collection of this unique suite of facilities that really has helped us to be successful. So you probably know a lot about research reactors, but our research reactor is one of only a handful of self-funded research reactors in the world. So we get no operating funds from the university, from our federal government or provincial government or state government. So we run a business here, and our business model is to view our researchers and students as our stakeholders or shareholders. What this means is any commercial profits we make or any commercial success we have is all about providing low cost, or direct support to researchers and scientists here on campus. I have to hold for 1 second. Sorry about that. I was some people at my door. So yeah, our students and our researchers are really the focus of our commercial operation. They're the outcome of our commercial operation. We're licensed for 5 megawatts. Currently, we operate at 3 megawatts, 2 shifts a day, 5 days a week, or 6 days a week, depending on what's going on. And because we're self-funded, we have to adjust power and our operating schedule to balance the costs and the revenues. Right now, the 3 megawatts 16.5 is the operating cycle that makes sense for us. We can't go higher in power just because of the poison load in our operating cycle. So if we're operating at higher power, when we shut down at night, the xenon load builds up, and if we were to try to start up in the morning, we wouldn't be able to overcome the poison. We've got a full containment structure, which isn't always, you won't find that at all university research reactors, but it really has provided a great safety case for us because the university has really grown around the reactor. Excuse me, and it's also been, a really important security feature, especially post 9/11, where we needed to take a more serious profile with security all around the world, but in Canada as well. Because of our open pool design, it's very flexible. We can take things in and out. We can show students different things while we're operating. We have a 10-year operating license, but we will apply for one next year, again, to start the cycle for a new 10-year operating license. And we're pretty efficient. We're between 80 and 85%, which for research reactors is fairly good. Just a little bit about our core. We're a 9.9 by 6 grid. We have 6 control assemblies, one of which we use as a regulating rod, and 5 shutoff rods. We're low enriched, like most research reactors in the world. And at any given time, we'd have about 5 kilograms of U-235 in the core. And you can see it's a plate type fuel with the cooling just flowing down through the channels. The 2 outer plates are dummies or just no fuel, not fueled, and the 16 inner plates are fueled. And our cooling system is very simple. The reactor pool is actually draining as it leaves the pool. It flows through the reactor core itself, which removes the heating. It goes through a set of heat exchangers, and the water itself provides moderation and cooling, and plus a big, huge heat sink when we shut down. So it's a very simple design, and materials test reactor are usually very simple. No forced cooling. The pump is really just to control level. And we have all the normal facilities you'd see at a research reactor. We have neutron activation center, which looks at short-lived activation analysis. We have delayed neutron counting systems where we're looking for U-235 content. We have a prompt gamma system, and we support all kinds of industries, but also research in environmental, geological, archaeometry, tissue, environmental sampling, all kinds of things. We also use it for, it's also a very useful tool if we're looking at medical isotope development or looking at quality assurance. So if we have a suggested new target, we can for isotope production, we can run it in our NAA system and look at what kind of impurities we'll face if we go to a larger target. So, and like all research facilities, we have 6 beam ports. And when I came, you know, we were not really well occupied, but in the recent past, we've added we added a 3D neutron radiography system. We added another neutron radiography beam line, and this is for turbine blade use as well. And you can see a turbine blade on the right. The turbine blade is made by casting the part. So when they want to make this alloy, it has to be lightweight. It's an exotic alloy, so they cast the part. And when they remove the casting material, they have to make sure the cooling channels are open, because if they're blocked, they will the airflow through the part won't be sufficient. The part will heat up, pressure can build up, and the part would fail. And when a turbine blade fails in a turbine engine and an aircraft at, you know, 30,000 feet, it's not a good day for the passengers on that flight. So we added a second neutron radiography facility. We put in an alignment diffractometer. We put in an intense positron beam facility, which uses the gamma from the core to generate positrons. We moved our prompt gamma system. We just putting in a small angle neutron scattering system. And with that, we built a new guide hall. And eventually we'll move the intense positron beam facility research stations to the guide hall. Just a quick thing on our guide hall. This is the reactor pool. These are the main containment walls for the reactor. And when they poured the original building in 1959, they lined up our beam ports with the outer walls, and they embedded pipes in our outer walls to be lined up with the beam lines. What that did is allowed us, when we took on the small angle neutron scattering system, is bring the neutrons right outside of containment into a guide hall that researchers can access. And this is good because researchers can access this at any time without going through security, without all the training that's required for entry into the reactor. So it's a lot simpler for them to have access to their research equipment. And here's the guide hall. The interesting thing is, this is the outside of the reactor building. So we excavated down, this is down underground. And here's the pipe that they had poured when they poured the walls of the containment building in 1959. So they were 60 years ahead of their time by the time we actually went to use them. And what's coming? We're going to add, in the next 3 to 5 years, we're going to add a new beam line. So we're going to actually drill a hole in the pool wall to add a beam line on this side of the reactor. We're going to build another guide hall on the west side of the building. We're going to put in a brand new powder diffractometer, prompt gamma, and small angle neutron scattering, and the beam in positron beam will stay the same, but we'll add another Andy type alignment diffractometer. So this was all furnished through $27 million Canadian infrastructure grant. And this has been a big success. It just was announced about a month ago. And so we're now busy trying to get prepared to take on this new mission. And when I talk to university administrators, it's a little bit different. When I tell them that we're doing commercial operations, they're happy, but they get upset because they feel like if we're doing commercial operations, then we're not supporting researchers the best way, to our best advantage. So it's important to make our university leaders understand that I can be doing research in one area and commercial operations in the other. And that's really important to show them that while we're doing one thing commercially, that doesn't mean we're displacing something that a researcher needs. So we have a number of facilities, and you can see the yellow are strictly research type facilities. The blue would be totally commercial, whereas the green we use for both commercial and research. So it's very important to strike this balance, because on a university campus, it really doesn't matter how much money you make, to be honest. If you're not supporting research and education, the university really doesn't have any desire to have you here. So you have to constantly be focused on the researchers and the students in an academic setting. Commercial operations is extremely important, but you can't lose sight of the researchers and the students. So I'll give you a little bit of our story. It's very high level. I'm hoping that in the question portion we can get into some of the details, but it all started with the gentleman on the right, Dr. Thode. He was a very important university president at our university. And at McMaster in 1950, we opened the Nuclear Research Building, excuse me. And it was the first dedicated research building on campus. So before we had a chemistry building or biology building or geography building, we had a nuclear research building, which was very unique in Canada at the time. And in 1951, we had a clinical research lab established for isotopes in medicine. This is before the reactor showed up. Dr. Thode recognized that a nuclear reactor would be important for the future of the university. And in the fall of 1955, he decided we needed to get a research reactor. A year later, not even a year later, 6 months later, he had the funding to do it. And a couple of years after that, the reactor went critical. So amazing, it can't be done in today's world, but from concept to completion in 4 years is just amazing. And for McMaster, which is pretty a small university in Canada at the time, and for Canada, which was one of a few maybe medium sized countries in the Commonwealth, to get the first research reactor at a university within the British Commonwealth was a big deal for us. And it was really the accomplishment of Dr. Thode. The early decades, the 60s, the 70s, and well into the 80s, things were great. They were great everywhere for research reactors. I think there was a lot of science, a lot of research happening in basic science. The nuclear industry in Canada was just taking off. We're building nuclear power plants. The technology was really interesting and cutting edge, and it attracted a lot of students to the industry. It was seen as the future, had a great public image. So there was lots of excitement in Canada, and that drove a lot of excitement to the university and the research reactor. It was fully funded by the government. Government paid all the salaries, for all the fuel disposal, everything. So it was really good environment to be working at this reactor or doing research at the reactor. In 1962, Dr. Brockhouse joined the university as a faculty member and resided here till he retired. And he later won the Nobel Prize in physics for his work on diffractometer sciences. In the 70s, we went from 2 megawatts to 5 megawatts. And this was during planned outage work at the National Research Reactor at Chalk River. So when they shut down to do their vessel replacement, we upgraded, or this reactor and McMaster was upgraded to 5 megawatts, and they were making the moly at the time, or the technetium-99. And then the 90s hit, and you know, it was a bad time for the McMaster nuclear reactor. All of the funding was cut from the government. So all of a sudden, this fully funded facility went to zero funding, and it was all being paid for by the university. So you can imagine the debt load just started to rise, and there was no end. There was some commercial operations, but it wasn't anywhere near the cost of the facility. In 1995, we had a criticality incident at the facility. So we went critical during a refueling operation where unplanned. So we, at the time, the people doing it took some shortcuts, for lack of a better word, didn't fully understand where they were in the refueling operation. And so the reactor started up, but it scrammed immediately, but you know, a big concern for our regulator that we had this level of violation. And then we had a university president come along. She didn't like nuclear. She was an anti-nuke. So she just decided we're going to shut the facility down. So for a university, you know, loss of financial stability was a big strike. Loss of our regulators' trust was a second strike. And then loss of the university support was the third strike. And things were at the lowest that they could be for the McMaster nuclear reactor. So it was really looking bad. Staff were, you know, anxious. They thought they were going to lose their jobs. Researchers, they left the university. Researchers that had anything to do with nuclear or radiation sciences, they fled to facilities where they could sustain their careers, and you can't blame them. So we were at a crisis, you know. So we had two roads we could take. You know, we could shut down the facility, we could pack it up and go home, or we could take this crisis and turn it into an opportunity. And I'm saying I wasn't here at the time, so I came just after this moment in time, but the staff at the time, you know, they rose to the occasion. Some staff suggested they all take salary cuts. Some staff decided to work for free and retire. Some staff just, you know, work extremely long hours to try and save the facility. So it really was the strength of the people at the time that carried us through. They developed a business plan, and they presented it to the Board of Governors, and the Board of Governors believed in them, and they accepted the business plan. Researchers that were using the facility, they rallied around, and they started to lobby the university administration to reverse their decision to shut down the reactor. And then the operations team took on a massive focus at improving safety of operations and regulatory compliance. So we were at this road, we were at the lowest of the low, but fortunately, the people at the time, they were able to turn things around, or at least convince the university to give us a chance. So then we had to, what are we going to do? How are we going to turn this around? How are we going to build the university confidence? Well, we did it by setting a vision that aligns with the university. So as opposed to going off and doing our own thing, we had to make sure that our vision was in line with our vice president's vision, and which was in line with the university. So the cascade approach. This is what the university wants. this is how the vice president's going to implement it, and this is how we're going to support the vice president. And so it was really about making sure the decisions we'd made and the directions we took were in full alignment with the university, because up to that point in time, we were kind of doing our own thing. So we really really took it seriously to make sure that we were a facility that supported the McMaster University vision. And it's kind of, we had to start rowing all together and in the same direction. The second pillar we had to look at was our regulatory trust. We had to rebuild that. We had no trust with the regulator. Not only did we have an accident, they gave us a show cause order. So a show cause order is, in Canada, it's tell us why we should let you continue to operate. It's the lowest you can get before they pull your license. So they're about to pull your license, but they say, you know, build a case, tell us why you deserve a license. So at that point in time, you know, we had no trust with the regulator. We implemented, you know, a strong compliance regime here. So we're not reacting to the regulator coming and saying, oh, you're not doing this or you're not doing that. We're on top of that all the time. We're looking to make sure we're in full compliance, and we're also beyond compliance in a lot of areas. We are transparent and open. Part of the reason why we had a problem with the regulator is we had the incident, but we didn't report it to them immediately. So they found out about it a month after it happened, and that exasperated the situation. We're building a strong safety culture, and we're always trying to improve it. We've implemented a new quality management system based on our nuclear power plant standards. And my job, one of my key jobs, is to build our relationship with the CNSC. So our regulator is about maybe 1,000 kilometers, 800 kilometers from the university. I will get in my car and drive there if there's a problem. I will get in my car to drive there to have a coffee with our regulator, our contact there, on a routine basis. So I want to make sure that we have the type of relationship that is always open and transparent. And again, the stakeholder relationship, it's a active process, not a reactive process. And then we had our financial issue. And so we had to figure out a way to make the bills go away, pay our way. We had to get out of debt. So we had to find a way to generate funds to support the operations. And it was obvious at the time that the most practical way to do it was through medical isotope production. And for us, we put together our vision, which was from core to clinic. And what we're trying to do is focus any isotope production on the pathway to getting into the clinic. So we can make things here in our facilities, whether the reactor or the cyclotron. We can process them in our high-level lab facilities. There's an animal imaging facility on campus where they can do the R&D for in vivo analysis. And then our hospital on campus can take on the clinical trials. But the focus here is to make sure whatever we're doing on this end is going to result in a clinical impact, as opposed to just making isotopes for the sake of making them. So really trying to put our focus on the core to clinic vision, and with the patient as our goal. So we put together an isotope medical isotope program here on campus, and like you're aware, I-125 was our first and really our biggest product. It was developed. There's a new process developed on campus. We nuclear operations facilities took on the commercialization process for the production, which is different. I mean, it's a different different aspect of normal university facility operations. So commercialization and having the expertise and the people that know how to do this was a key to the success story. We currently produce I-125 in large quantities. We ship it all over the world. We ship to North America, South America, all through Asia, Europe, New Zealand. We ship packages all over the world every week. We like to tell our people, because I-125 is used primarily for prostate cancer treatment, we like to tell our staff that you're helping 250 dads every day you come to work. So it's not just doing another routine operation. It's not just doing another processing activity. What you do impacts 250 people every day you come to work. We have always strived to have the highest quality product on the market. So it gives us our advantage because we're self-sufficient and we compete with fully funded facilities. We can't compete on price. So we have to compete on quality and reliability. So someone had mentioned we operated through the pandemic. We were the only facility making I-125 during that period. And it was because of our reliability that we have a lot of our customers. As most of you know, it takes a long time to obtain a customer. It takes months, years of interactions and relationship building to get a customer to come to you. But like that, they will leave you. So one hiccup or one small outage and they're gone. And they have to, because they have to find another source of supply. So we really have focused on our high quality, our reliability, and we're a small player. So we have to be nimble. We have to bend over backwards for the customer, and we do. And people are focused on the customer, and not just the customer, the patient. For this process, we've done 2 technology transfers to other research reactors. So we had a relationship with a reactor in Sweden where we brought the technology there, and we're producing it there in cooperation with the research reactor there. When that facility closed, we entered a technical transfer agreement with the reactor at Chalk River. So we were producing I-125 there. And we were recently working on a third technical transfer, but unfortunately, late into the process, the reactor partner decided to go a different way. So we have shared this technology around the world, and we've been successful in making other facilities successful. And really, the I-125, I'll be honest, this is what saved us. While regulatory support and university support were critical and are critical, without the money to be able to pay for our way, it would have been a tough go, just based on goodwill from the university and the regulator. And it's an interesting process. So we do irradiate a xenon gas. After about 3 weeks of cycles, we would bring the rig that gets irradiated. We'll take off this cylinder, which contains the iodine. We'll bring it into a hot cell glove box area that's ventilated for with charcoal filters for the iodine. We'll do the recovery operations and we'll dispense it, and then we'll package it up for our customers, and it all goes in little type A packages. These go on commercial aircrafts, and they're flown all over the world. Like I say, every week we're flying it everywhere. The luxury with I-125, it is a 60-day half-life. So, you know, we can stockpile the product and take an outage, so we can build up inventories and take an outage and not miss a beat. So it's a good product from it's a forgiving product with the 60-day half-life. Our newest product, which is really sort of starting to take off, is Komersial, which is a company out of the Netherlands who developed a radioembolic therapy using holmium-166. The holmium-166 are in microspheres. They're tiny, 30 micrometer spheres with about 20% by weight holmium. They're polylactic acids. They're like little beads or microspheres. And what we do is we do the irradiations here. In order to do that, we had to develop special irradiation facilities. We worked with Querum for a number of years, and it was an interesting program because one of our research scientists here on campus had been reading about the technology and had actually made her own polylactic acid holmium microspheres and had done some irradiation here at the university before Querum contacted us. So it was a really good project to take on because we were already familiar with it. We were enthusiastic. We dove right in. We started designing facilities. We did lots of R&D development work with Querum. We still support Querum in R&D. So they're looking at new microspheres, new technologies, and we've become a pretty important research partner with them. The advantage over other radioembolic therapies is that these microspheres can be imaged. So even while while they're doing the treatment, they can inject the microspheres into the hepatic artery, and they can then image the patient because the microspheres are paramagnetic. They can see with an MRI if they've actually made it to the tumor. So you can see the tumors here, and you can see that the holmium is actually getting to the tumors. In the other types of therapies that use yttrium-based isotopes, you can't image them. So you put them in and you just hope that they're getting to the tumor. Here you can inject the microspheres, image them, and then if you can add more if you have to. So it's a very powerful technique. It's a big advantage over the existing facility, the existing technology. It's right now approved in about 9 European countries, but it's not available in North America, or it's not available anywhere in the world outside those 9 European countries. So when we took it on, we were looking to the future because we believed in this technology and we believe in the future of this technology. And I'll come back to that in a bit. So really our innovation has led to our success. So right now we're the world's largest producer of I-125. Like I say, 250 patients every day. And we since become the largest producer of Querum spheres using holmium-166. And there's a number of research reactors in Europe that produce this, but McMaster is their preferred supplier because of our quality and our accuracy and our reliability. Again, you can't underestimate how important these factors are in getting support from your customers. if you can imagine how the process works, is we irradiate the microspheres, and holmium has a 27, 28-hour half-life. So we irradiate them. At the end of the radiation, we package them, we drive them to the airport in Toronto, they get on a plane, they fly to Europe, and then in Europe, they 4 hours or 6 hours to clear customers, they drive it to the lab that will now put them into a patient dose. And then that patient dose gets driven to the hospital for the treatment. So for us, the logistics are complicated, and they're very just in time. We have to time our irradiation, the start of our irradiation, to match the flights and the logistics to get it to the patient for their time of treatment. So, you know, we have to do the math so that at the beginning of we start the irradiation, so at the end of radiation, all the flights and car drives and processing in a hot lab, that the patient gets the right dose when they're going to undergo treatment. And just to show you how important reliability and accuracy and quality is, that flight from Canada to Europe and all the logistics, additional logistics that come with that, you'd wonder why they would want to come to McMaster when they have research reactors that are around the corner from them, like an hour drive from the hot lab in some cases. It's because of our reliability and our accuracy and our dependability that they come to here, and that's why we've become the biggest supplier to them, despite this huge logistics you know, burden or barrier we have. So we're always looking to the future, and this is an important lesson for us. You know, we have to look at the future. Technologies come, technologies go, and you see it with a lot of research reactors. Like our early days, the basic science research was in its glory days, and a lot of research reactors were successful. And when the basic science was getting less and less important, we had to move to an applied science, and now we have to move to a commercial product. So it's the ability to change with the times, look to the future, that's really secured our story and our ongoing success. So right now, there's a number of isotopes we're interested in, but we can't make them on our interrupted schedule. So a lot of these isotopes are short-lived. So for example, lutetium-177, everyone knows looks very promising. For our operating cycle, if we start up in the morning and we make lutetium all through the day, and then we shut down, it decays away. Next day we start up, we make our peak gets a little bit higher, but we never achieve the peak that's going to be important for treating patients. So really our key to having an impact on these isotopes is to go to a 24/5 operating cycle. So that's a key thing that we're looking at very carefully, and I'll talk a little bit about more. We work with industrial partners on all levels. So it could be a researcher with, hey, I think I got a good idea. Do you think I can do it? How can I make it work? So we spend a lot of time with early stage researchers, but when companies come along, we are their best friend. You know, we try to encourage interactions with students and the company. So we try to bring students on board. We get them involved with companies. It's good for the students. It's good for the companies. Students are normally less expensive than full-time employees. So we really work on working with partners, and we're working with them to look at products that we can support if we were to go to a 24/5 operating cycle. And our cyclotron facility, it hasn't been it's been mostly used as a production facility, but right now we're looking at some interesting R&D products that we want to develop out of that facility. So we're putting together a pretty aggressive R&D plan to look at some of the isotopes that we think are going to have an impact going forward, and some of the isotopes that will, work with the therapies. So we want to develop some of the new compounds out there that are going to treat disease. We can also put on an isotope, tag it with an isotope, so that we'll tag it with an imaging agent. It'll go into the patient to help diagnose the disease. Then we'll substitute the medical isotope that is used for imaging with a therapeutic one, or one that will kill the cell. We'll administer that to the patient to treat the disease. And then we'll go back and we'll re-image with the existing, the previous isotope we used, to see how effective we have been in treating the patient. And there's lots of interesting, partners, isotope partners out there that could be very, very important and very powerful in modern healthcare. One thing that has helped immensely is we have our own independent R&D group. So it's not in the faculty stream. Faculty members need to have the freedom to pursue their research endeavors. So they need that freedom to go in any direction they want and in any direction they can. For a business operation, you need to be able to have a research team where you can focus on some commercial priorities, or can focus them in a direction that will eventually, potentially, give you a commercial return. So by having our own internal research group, it's really helped us develop new products and also sustain existing products. So when problems come along with an I-125 process, we have an R&D team that we can quickly deploy to look into the issue and help us resolve it. And this team is really, it's our investment in the future. So if you're going to just operate and make things, that's great. But unless you have a vision to the future and a way to support a future, then I think you're not doing the right thing. And this is one of the, like I said, lutetium is really looked at as a first-line treatment for prostate cancer in the future. So this looks very promising, and there's billions of dollars of transactions that are happening in the radiopharmacy environment over products that are lutetium based. And also the other product that looks very promising is alpha-based therapies. And there's a company, or a professor here on campus who has developed a therapeutic with using actinium-225, and it's called Fusion Pharmaceuticals. They were just listed on the stock exchange for, I think they've raised over $300 million in funding, and they're situated here in Hamilton. They're building out an R&D and a production facility. So it's been a really strong story for the university to get behind nuclear activities when success stories like that are happening out of these facilities, and it just generates excitement. So how we've been doing. So in the recent past, we've been very successful, and this is not me being successful. This is the researchers and the students and the postdocs that are applying for grant funding and have been successful. So in 2012, we received $22 million for a knowledge infrastructure program. So it allowed us to do some infrastructure work around the reactor. It helped us build out our high-level radioactive laboratories, and it provided us with the cyclotron and the supporting research facility. In 2014, we received the $23 million to build the post-irradiation facility, again, through a granting agency at the federal and provincial government levels. A couple years later, we broke ground on the small angle neutron scattering facility, an $8 million investment by governments. In 2017, we generated our first positron, another large funding fund of from a funding agency of $7 million Canadian. In 2018, the national research reactor in Canada, the NRU 135 megawatt reactor, which was really the centerpiece of our laboratory, was shut down. And so all of a sudden in 2018, we became Canada's largest neutron source, and really the only neutron source. We have a couple small, 200 watt slowpoke reactors, but which can do some things, but not to the level of what our reactor can do. So we became really Canada's only neutron source. So that's really changed our profile. In 2019, the university said, okay, Chris, you've got us out of debt, you're making money, you're financially secure. So let's really focus on nuclear research. The university was looking at what sets it apart from other Canadian universities. Healthcare is a big issue, or a big strong point for our university, because we have a hospital on campus. Engineering or material sciences was a strength, but they all of a sudden realized that, hey, these nuclear facilities we have really do distinguish us and give us an advantage over other facilities. So they told me quite directly, you need to maximize the outcome of these nuclear facilities, the research outcome. We ended up hiring a consulting firm to do an independent marketing assessment, or really an assessment, not just market, but how are we doing? How do we compare internationally with other research reactors? What are some of the opportunities the university has? And the market assessment was pretty glowing. They looked at our costs compared to other research reactors around the world and found we were extremely competitive on the cost to produce things, the cost per neutron produced. We were by far the lowest because of our kind of nimble, bare bones approach. But it also looked closely at the opportunities that were emerging in several areas, both research and commercially, and they recommended the university that we go to a 24/5 operation. Independent of that, we received, faculty received a $47 million CFI award around neutron scattering. And that's all those beamlines I was talking about earlier. So that funding will not only build out the beamlines here on campus, but it'll also purchase time at foreign facilities for researchers to have access to foreign facilities. So some bigger sources in the US with different instruments than we can support here at our reactor. I talked about the holmium. So the importance of holmium to our future is that right now the company, the company was bought by Terumo, which is a big Japanese medical supply company, and they are going to start global clinical trials next year. And the global clinical trials will seek to position this product into the Canadian, US, and Asian markets. There's a big demand for, there's a large prevalency of sadly liver cancer in Asia, and they're looking for this product to help on that front. So we signed an agreement with Quirum earlier this year to build that hot lab where we can make patient doses here on campus. So we'll irradiate at the reactor, and instead of shipping them all the way over to Europe to make a patient dose, we'll move them next door and we'll make patient doses here. And then we can get them on a plane to whatever hospital in the world requires treatment. We're fortunate that being a small country, it means that we have a few international airports, and the Toronto International Airport is a big hub. And what happens is it flies to everywhere in the world, all through the US, all across the world. You know, we've put flights to Beijing and Shanghai and Singapore. We're putting products on there every day, and Air Canada, our national carrier, is dangerous goods qualified, so they can take our isotopes. So we're in a really good position logistically to make the product here, irradiate the microspheres, get it into a patient dose, and get it on a plane and get it to anywhere in the world. Much quicker than when we had to go through Europe. So it's going to be, we hope to start making patient doses in the first quarter of next year. And right now, I can tell you on a number of different fronts, the university is looking to expand our operation 24/5. To go to 24/5 is going to be a big project for us. We've got to hire lots of staff. We've got to do lots of training. We've got to reconfigure our core to accommodate existing products, but also make room for new products. So it'll be a very interesting 3 to 5 years. But what we're blessed with here at McMaster is people that work here, truly, they get out of bed in the morning to solve problems. They're problem solvers. They get, no satisfaction like they get out of having a problem and finding a solution. So that's been, the people here are amazing, right? I feel privileged to work with them all and to help them in our pursuit to the future. So that's a quick story. I think in summary, the university has really been blessed by having this unique suite of facilities. And like I say, the reactor is the cornerstone, but all the other facilities complement each other and help support the reactor in a lot of ways. Now, revenues from all of these facilities have to support all of them. So if the accelerator lab isn't doing so good, we have to bring income from the reactor or from another facility to make it all even. So all 5 of these facilities have no funding for operation. We've been really successful in infrastructure or building new experiments or new equipment, but we still need to come up with the money to pay for the people, buy the fuel, dispose of the fuel, maintain all the facilities. So it's a pretty, as you are well aware, it's not an inexpensive undertaking. It's very expensive. These are exotic tools that are hard to come by. So we have to try and make them as inexpensive as possible for our students. Like I said before, strong regulatory compliance and safety, financial stability, and senior management trust are key factors to the success of our facilities. So any one of those 3 without them will shut you down. And so you have to be constantly focused on all 3 of those pillars, because you can't survive without all 3 of them being strong. And I say it again and again, a crisis was our moment. If we just kept going along, I think we could have faded off into shutdown. But because there was a crisis, it forced us to really look hard at what we're doing and how we're doing it. And it really was the turning point of our operations. It really motivated people to think hard, to to spend all their waking hours thinking of how they're going to turn this around. And thanks to their dedication, I'm here today to talk about, our story, because without that effort, I wouldn't have the privilege of talking to you today. And we've been super successful. Our faculty have been successful in getting the infrastructure to support the research activities here on campus. So they've been very successful. They've acquired a lot of funding, a large portion of funding of a lot of these programs have come to McMaster and have come to nuclear programs, which is, again, which isn't that usual. It's actually very unusual that this much money is focused in one area. And so whatever we're doing and whatever they're doing, I think the government is inadvertently giving us a nod of approval that what we're doing is correct. So that's very satisfying. And like I said, I think it's key for our future to go to a 24-hour operating cycle. And right now it looks like 5 days a week is the right number of days a week to operate. And it's probably the first step to a 24/7 operation, but it's going to be key if we're going to maintain our success, because we really need to get access to those shorter-lived isotopes to support the future. And that's the presentation, and I'm hope you enjoyed it, and I'm open to answer any questions.
Thank you, Chris. It's very, very impressive, because you saw us the success fact, the self-funded research reactors, but also you saw us the crisis and how you get to get out from the crisis. This is very impressive. So many questions about how you able, for example, to self-fund the research reactors to maintain the operation of the old reactors. But anyway, I would like to ask Dr. Jupiter Sitorus Pane to give a comment. For example, Pak Jupiter, are you ready? Well, we are already 9 p.m., but I hope you are okay to give us some time for the discussion.
Okay.
Silakan.
Thank you very much, Pak Jarod, for this time. One word that I would like to say for your presentations is wow. This presentation is really, really impressive for us, and also give us a history, the success and the history to achieve the success. It's really, I learned a lot from your presentations, that you're very open to tell us what's going is going to your reactors. What I see from your presentation is that working with the university is really very good start, yeah, for the development and then to achieve the successful goals. Because as you mentioned, that your worker consists of the students and researchers in the universities. But at this time, I would like to know more about what faculty you are working with, so that this kind of people, the students, because a lot of faculty there, they can working with this community, this research. This is what I want to ask for you also. And also you build, from your presentations, I can see how the McMaster University reactors build a very efficient reactors with the 65% operating efficiency. This is a very good, yeah. This is a very good operations efficiency. That's not just good, it's very good for, and also the system you have is very simple, and then very simple, and yeah, it can be operate in the effective way. And also you mentioned about the beam port. Before you are coming, you came, the beam port is vacant, about 3 beam port, and after that you put the beam port, you use the beam port with a very various activity there, like refractometer, and then also the 3D neutron radiography, and also ND-type alignment diffractometer, SUNS, and so on. So this is the very good of your reactors. You maximize the beam port, yeah. You maximize the beam port. You have already tell us what you are doing with the beam port. And also when you come to the, I really impressed when your these reactors suffer from the crisis. It's really teach us a lot the commitment of the shareholder. For example, how you setting the vision to the university, setting the vision to the regulations. And also the most important thing is setting the clinic visions. And this is the main study that you have already given to the university and allowed them to see how you focus the operations of the reactor. We learn a lot. Yeah. My question is how your people have such kind of commitment. Sometimes they can be lower the salary, and then maybe they have a vision. Yeah, if we go together and then we work together, we will see future, bright future there. But please tell us, what is the reason why people can have a good, highly commitment on this way? Yeah? And they're coming from different faculty. Yeah? I really want to hear from you, what is part of the medical faculty in these activities? Because your program is focused on the medical isotope program. So really this commitment give us, I would like to have more elaboration from you, how this commitment's coming. And also the supporting facility. I think you have already mentioned about the supporting facility that coming from the national and state funding. And then after that, the reactor can be self-funding. My question is, what the meaning of the self-funding here? Because did you calculate also the investment put by the donor, and then the revenue can find the ROI for this operation cost? So maybe self-funding, if you don't mind, tell us what is the part of the national funding put on the facilities, because the facility is very extraordinary. Yeah, it is the rule of the facility is really support this program focus on the medical radioisotope. So please, this is focus on the medical radioisotopes. And also what make us impressed, because when you define the clinical visions, you touch the human being need by providing 250 per day treatment for the patient. This is your goal. This is really a human being, what the human being need. They can get rid of their problem, their health problem. So this is my impressions or my response for your presentation. That's really, we learn a lot of this. And then I hope we can learn also how we handle our Indonesian, 3 Indonesian Riset reactors. maybe you will be our consultant to make how to develop the commitment of our people. I think that's all my comment, Dr. Jarod.
Okay, thank you, Pak Jupiter Pane. Dr. Jupiter Pane is the former director of Bandung Reaktor. But before you answer this question, I would like to ask someone, the young person, the young generations, the manager of Yogyakarta Reaktor. Maybe you can have a comment or a question. Pak Umar, silakan, please.
Okay, thank you very much. For the Mr. Chris Heisel, that is wonderful research reactors. From your presentation, I get new insights how to earn money from research reactor, and also how to manage long life your research reactor, because from 1959, more than 60 years, your facility in a good condition, and even you will extend more, maybe for the license from regulatory body. One thing I would like to know about your maintenance program and aging management, especially from for component related to safety. About when you upgraded in 1970, did you change some components, or until now most components are the same to the original? I mean, more than 60 years, all component and structure in the car and in the at your facilities the same, or you have been replaced it? That is all.
Okay, terima kasih Pak Ahmad. Thank you. Please, Chris, maybe you have an explanation for these two persons about their comments and questions.
Okay, well, they're both, well, there's a number of questions from Jupiter, so I didn't write them all down, but the first question was around commitment of people. And to back up, although we're on a university campus, most of the people that work here are full-time employees, so they're not students. Although we hire and employ about 15 students every year, the core group of reactor operators and maintainers and isotope production techs are full-time employees. But as to commitment, I think it has a lot to do with you know, the personal role we play in supporting patients. You know, so everyone knows somebody that has gone through a disease or has had cancer in some form. So unfortunately, everybody has that experience. And so when you can personalize the work that people are doing and focus it on a patient, it brings a lot more value to what you do every day. So we really try and remind staff that what you're doing matters, and that helps on the commitment. Of course, the crisis, you know, that helped with the commitment too, because all of a sudden, you know, as my dad liked to say, you know, when I wanted to change jobs or something, he said, well, you know, Chris, do you like to eat? And that was the, you know, so losing your job is a big thing. So it drives you to commit more so than if everything is rosy. So the crisis helped build the commitment. I think the focus on the patient has helped maintain the commitment. And being around a university, I mean, or working in a university environment is really special. You get to work with students, so there's always youthful energy around you, and really students are naturally positive, and happy. But also you get to see what all kinds of researchers are doing, and if you're, to me, that's interesting. So I get to learn a lot about stuff that, in a different work environment, I may not have that opportunity. So by having a job, or by people having a job that has a direct impact on society in a positive way, by working in an environment that, is young at heart and is interested in learning, I think those are all ways to keep your staff motivated. And to be honest, we try to hire people that maybe, I don't want to say we can train anybody anything. So we really try to focus on hiring people that are nice to be around, are good natured, because you want to work with positive people.
Yeah.
You have the smartest person work for you, and if they're not happy, then it tends to make everybody unhappy. So we really try and focus on when we hire people. On the commercial side of things, when we get investment from the government, it will be specifically on, a research tool or a lab thing. So the expectation isn't for us to pay back that capital. So they'll give a researcher, a faculty, not Chris or nuclear operations, they'll give a faculty a research tool that they can build a research team around and deliver research results. And that's what the state funding is for that tool. Our job is to raise money to pay for the operations, the maintenance of that tool, and the people that support that tool. We do make investments. So, for example, when we built the guide hall, we took about $2 million Canadian from our operating fund. So we invested in that guide hall, and we weren't looking for a return on investment, but we were aligning our surplus funds with the direction the university is going. So the university was investing in that, the government had invested in that. So we said, we can make this better by investing in it as well. So there wouldn't be a return on investment. Now, in other cases, when we build a new laboratory for commercial products, yes, we have to do a return on investment analysis on those strictly commercial ventures. When we're going to build a facility or build a new facility for a customer, yeah, we need to get a return on investment on that. But sometimes at a university, the return on investment isn't financial, right? It's about expanding your research impact and expanding your support in the community. We're a university. At the end of the day, we're a university. We may run a commercial operation here, but we're a university. We're here for the students of McMaster, the researchers. So that's a little bit about a return on investment. I can't remember if there's a third question, but I'll go to the question on aging management.
Yeah.
It's an extremely important question. And we have an aging management program. We've replaced a lot of equipment. We've replaced our secondary system. We replaced our primary water system. We replaced our electrical infrastructure. But that's not to say we don't have a long way to go. And part of my near-term goals are to invest heavily in the asset. And the asset, I mean the reactor. I mean, the government is investing money into all these beautiful research facilities. I think it's my responsibility or our responsibility to make sure these research facilities do get their research return on investment. So if the government is putting millions of dollars into new research infrastructure here, the return on their investment is to have research outcomes and have students trained on these facilities. So my responsibility is right in line with your aging management question. My responsibility is to make sure the reactor is here operating reliably and effectively so that these research facilities can get the most out of that investment. So aging management, I may have been skirting around it. We do a good job. We don't do a great job, to be honest. And so the focus over the next 5 years, and I can tell you this in confidence, but I'm just hiring an entire group to focus on aging management. Up to this point, our problem has been we're operating the reactor, we're making sure we're operating it, we're doing a good job, and we're making commercial products, but the people that were taking on the aging management work, they were operating the reactor, they were helping on commercial operations, and then they would go and do some aging management. And I don't think that's effective. So right now, I'm going to have a group that focuses on operating and maintaining, doing the day-to-day maintenance. But I'm going to create an entire group that's just focused on that goal of aging management and major refurbishments and obsolescent maintenance and critical spare. So our problem to date has been that we've been trying to do a lot of that as a part-time sort of focus, whereas I think right now it needs a full-time focus. So we're just creating a group to take that on. And, again, you could have money for aging management. You could have cash or dollars to do refurbishment activities, but unless you have a group of people that can actually spend that money or make those refurbishment happen, it's useless, right? You may as well spend the money on something else. But you should be spending it on aging management. You should be spending it on refurbishment, but you need a focused, dedicated group to do that seriously. So that's right now, like in the last couple of weeks, I'm interviewing people to take on that role here at the reactor. So a very timely question.
There is one question also from Umar about the upgrading during the upgrading in 1970s. Did you upgrade all of them or just some part of?
What we did there in the 70s was really upgraded our heat transfer system. Mm-hmm. So up to that point, we were a 2 megawatt reactor. So we had to put in additional heat exchangers and additional cooling towers to take on the increased heat removal duty to go to 5 megawatts. So the design can accommodate probably up to 7 megawatts just from the piping size and the capability to move water through the core through gravity. But at that time, we only had the heat removal capacity for 2 megawatts. So we added heat exchangers in series, and we added cooling towers to take away the heat. And that was the major upgrades in the 70s. Since then, we've been doing it system by system.
Okay. Thank you. And final question from the audience. I pick one question from the audience, from Pak Harvey Chanto. He asked about is there any R&D system that select a good, game-changing topics that maybe high level or world level results, or maybe why do you focus on Holmium-166, for example? Is there any system to choose that one?
Well, I think Holmium-166 was a kind of hobby for our research. So, I mean, we have staff researchers, but in order to make them as productive as possible, we can't just say, go and research this and develop this. So we have to give them some spare time to keep interested in other things. It's important that they're looking around and not just focused on one single project. So we have to give them some amount of time to look around. And this research group is really the group that was looking at Holmium-166 just by accident. And then we were approached by the company to develop the product. So that was kind of them approaching us. But we always are looking and talking to industry and looking at clinical trials to see what's coming along, what's looking promising, what's gone from phase 3 to phase 2 to phase 3. So what are the promising next isotopes and looking if we can produce them here. And
okay. Maybe Pak Harwijanto will add the question. Please, Pak.
Yeah. Thanks a lot for a great presentation and a lot of insights and learnings actually. And of course, thanks to Pak Jarod giving me opportunity to directly ask. Okay, of course, in the research or R&D kind of process, a lot of proposed research topics can be very many and put into the funnel. And only a few of them that can be considered as a changing kind of game-changing kind of things like what you got from I-125 and Querim Spheres or something like that, that finally got the final products and marketing. In this case that when a lot of the proposed topics came into the funnel, would you see like one or two and then kill off a lot of them, or would you bring a lot of them together into the final stage?
It's a good question. It's an ongoing question. So I would like to have a formal process in place, but to be quite honest, it's very informal. So most of the requests come through our research scientists and their group, and I meet with them bi-weekly, and they give me an idea of what they're looking at and what looks promising. So I really listen to their opinion and I trust their opinion. So I wish it was more formal. I'd probably feel better if it was more formal. It was very informal. It's me and the research group talking things through, because I'm not as knowledgeable as things, they have to explain it to me. And when you teach something to somebody, you learn it more, right? You have to have a better understanding when you're trying to describe it. So they teach me, I ask questions, and we jointly, through consensus, decide which projects we're going to take on. It's worked for us. I don't recommend it for everybody, but it seemed to work for us. But you got to remember, we're a small group, and I used to work for a big organization, the National Lab, and I was the engineering manager, and there was probably about 10 levels of management on top of it. So what I found at that role, we would come to, hey, we've got an idea. And then it would go up 15 levels and come back down. And we never, ever made a decision. We were just stifled. So what really attracted me coming to McMaster were two things. One, my father and mother were small business owners. They owned variety stores, the corner stores where you get your milk and, so to me, coming to a environment where there was a challenge where we had to pay our own way and we had to make ends meet. That's what I was used to. I was working in a lab where the funding was just flowing in, and an opportunity would come along, and sometimes people would just say, well, it's just more work. I'm going to get paid anyway, so why would I take on more work? So for me to come to a work environment, where I had to put it on the line, we had to make money, that to me was how I was wired, or how I was raised in a small business. As a child, I was working at the store or stocking shelves. But also to come to an organization where a small group of people get together, talk things through, build up trust, and make a decision. And that was the decision we made, good or bad. It was either, we rode the successes, but we owned the failures too. But it was really empowering to be able to be in a position where we could make those decisions. Again, I'm not saying it's the best process in the world, and for certain research groups, you have to have big advisory committees and have a more formal process to review proposals. But on the commercial side, we get together, if it sounds right, if the information's right, we take a decision and we go with it. And we monitor that decision. If things aren't going right, or if we're in over our head, we'll back out. But for the most part, it's a small group of people who trust each other and and are willing to take risks together.
Yeah. It appears that after the 1990s crisis, that the game-changing products actually making you survive, as even making a lot of innovation later on, that leading to new innovations as well. So that's really impressive. Thank you so much, Grace.
Oh, thank you very much for the question.
Ya, terima kasih Pak Arijanto. I have another one audience would like to ask you. I think Pak Abarul, please, Pak Abarul, short questions maybe.
Thank you, Pak Jarod. Morning there, Chris. I am
Morning.
Abarul. I went to McMaster just for a week in 1988, July. At that time, I was accepted in the University of Waterloo in the physics department. So my question is, I saw that you are planning to build a powder refractometer. Can you tell me what kind of diffractometer, so that you feel that it is a good choice for building it in this time of because so many diffractometers right now around the world. And the second one, this is the most important one for me. What about the small angle neutron spectrometers? What kind of spectrometers do you have? You will have there. How about the length? How about the detectors? How about the everything? Because as I remember, when I left Waterloo in 1990, McMaster wants to build a rectangular sun spectrometer in McMaster, but I think it wasn't manifest because of the crisis in the nuclear situation in Canada at the time. So please briefly explain me about the powder refractometer and also about the sun spectrometer. Thank you.
Well, I have no problem being brief, because I'm not the expert on condensed matter sciences, but I can give you my email address. I can get you the technical details. The powder diffractometer there are lots around the world, but they believe with the new detector science that we'll be able to do something meaningful with our medium flux facility. And according to the condensed matter scientists here on campus, they believe that will be a heavily utilized instrument. And because there's lots of research that was displaced when Chalk River shut down their facilities. So some of the instruments are actually coming from Chalk River and are being refurbed and upgraded to operate here at the reactor in Hamilton. But please reach out to me by email, and I'll put you in touch with our scientists that'll have the technical specifications.
Okay, thank you very much. Terima kasih Pak Abrul ya. Well, finally, it's already more than 9:32 p.m. In Jakarta. Thank you very much, Chris, for your very impressive presentations. We learned a lot from you. So hopefully, as Pak Jupiter Pani said, you should be our consultant. So you must come here to Indonesia to help
I will
us.
come.
Okay.
Invite me,
Because
I will come.
we have 3 research reactors. So one of them, the chairman of our National Research and Innovation Agency said, "Oh, we must decommission this research reactor." That's why I invite you to give us the explanation. Well, your reactor is already older than Bandung research reactors, but have a good in operation, in self-funded. It's very impressive one. And you told us not only the success story, but about the crisis. Turn the crisis into opportunity and to be the successful reactors. Anyway, thank you very much. Hopefully we can meet, not virtually, but offline, maybe in Canada or maybe in Indonesia. Again, thank you very much, Chris. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Yeah,
have a great evening.
Ya, terima kasih Bapak Ibu sekalian, bahwasanya kita mendapatkan pelajaran berharga dari Pak Chris Hazel terkait bagaimana memanfaatkan reaktornya dengan sebaik-baiknya. Jadi ini menjadi suatu tantangan besar bagi kita semua yang punya 3 riset reaktor. Pak Chris Hazel cerita ini sesuatu yang mungkin bagi kita suatu hal yang luar biasa, keajaiban benar, bahwasanya riset reaktor yang biasanya disubsidi oleh pemerintah, mereka membiayai diri sendiri. Ini moga-moga menjadi contoh kita semua, termasuk bagi Inuki juga, yang ini nggak ada yang dari Inuki ya, bagaimana mampu berdagang, berbisnis masalah radioisotop, maupun juga untuk penelitian-penelitian yang levelnya internasional. Terima kasih sekali lagi, thank you very much Chris. Kita akan bertemu lagi di hari Kamis depan untuk topik yang berbeda. Saya harapkan ada sesuatu topik yang menarik terkait dengan pertanian nuklir untuk pertanian. Again, thank you very much. We will meet you again on Thursday afternoon. Thank you. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thank you, Chris. Thank you.
Bye now.
Oh, aku belum nyalain, jadi nggak bisa ngomong semuanya. Ya, terima kasih Bapak Ibu sekalian ya. Ini Pak Jupiter, terima kasih. Pak Omar, terima kasih. Ini tadi Pak Yusi.
Terima kasih.
Karena internetnya.
Terima kasih Pak.
Pak Abarul, pertanyaannya banyak.
Bagus. Topiknya bagus Pak Jarod.
Terima kasih.
Topiknya bagus sekali Pak Jarod.
Terima kasih Pak Jarod.
Sami-sami, mohon maaf tadi tidak banyak pertanyaan yang tidak bisa tersampaikan, tapi terwakili semua moga-moga. Ini pelajaran penting bagi kita.
Mandiri.
Mandiri, benar-benar mandiri. Gimana Pak Abrol, nanti kita Serpongnya harus bisa lebih maju lagi tuh.
Iya. Bagus kalau bisa jadi konsultan ya Pak.
Iya Pak.
Ya, itu. Harus dibawa ke Pak Handoko itu.
Minimal itu Pak, minimal. Saya rasa itu minimal.
Gimana Pak Jupiter?
Iya, ini sangat bagus.